Okay, so monumental moment for YQuim / our friendship. I finally watched a show that Tarini recommended to me.
Finally, it
Can you
only
believe?
took like 75 years of me recommending like 1700 shows. And you never watching any of them. And then this is the one you choose to watch. Like, I'm not mad about it. I'm just saying there's others. Namely you. Please watch you.
Okay, I'm still iffy about you. We'll see. Not you, but you, the show. You know,
Actually, technically, this is the second because I said you should watch Girlfriends, and you did watch Girlfriends.
I did. I didn't watch it. I'm like slowly chipping away at it.
Yeah, which is how I also watched it because the first few seasons you're like, but then it gets like good.
Yeah. Okay, that's what you're saying. But Ginny and Georgia.
Ginny and Georgia.
Okay,
It's the
so I
one,
started.
yeah, that you watched entirely. Okay, but yes, you go.
So I started. It was Sunday night, and I was setting up my bullet journal for April, and I wanted something to have in the background, so I figured I would put it on. Next thing you know, I'm 10 episodes deep. It's 4 a.m. and we work the next day. And I freaking felt it. I felt it in my body the next morning. I'm never doing that again, first of all.
I'm
Second of all, the show was okay. It did
that's
not
what,
deserve an
yeah,
all-nighter.
that's why I'm like, I watched the show and I watched the first few episodes and I like didn't get into it at all. And then I like took a break for like a super long time. And then I was like, there's like nothing else to watch. I like finished all the other shows. And then I was like, whatever, I'll just like finish watching it. And then I watched it. And even then I didn't like binge it. It still took me a while to do it.
But I feel like you're not a big binger to begin with.
Yeah, I'm not. Also, like I remember in university, Rilla would always make fun of me because I would just stop an episode at any time. Like when I was done watching or like if I was watching something while I was eating and it was like a random time, I'd be like, time to go. Like I'm done eating. Like I wouldn't be like, oh, I want to watch till the end or something. And I remember she would always be like, it's so weird that you just stop at any time. But yeah, I guess I'm not a true binger. Like I would never stay up till 4 watching a show.
Not even Stranger Things.
No, I just go to sleep. I can't. I like physically can't open my eyes. I like go to sleep.
I actually do think I think we've had this conversation before about Sabrina.
Yes. Which
Like
okay, we actually started watching together. Do you remember that one Halloween?
yes, yeah, where I think you dressed up as
Yeah,
Ariana
as
Grande.
Ariana Grande, and you were Lindsay Lohan, which was hilarious. And we started watching it together in my bed, and then we were so tired we turned it off. And then we didn't get into it until like a year later.
Yeah. I remember us being like, it's
Yeah,
okay.
me too.
But little do we freaking
Little did we
know.
know.
Next thing you know, we'll be signing a petition being like, you got to renew the show like ASAP.
Little did we know we'd be spending 200 USD to speak to the cast for 1 minute. So sometimes it'd be like that, you know? Sometimes it just be like that.
He got a community number. You and I were
I
just
know. Did you text him?
no, absolutely not. Because I know you don't text, you're not actually like texting the celebrity when they send their community
Okay,
number.
I think you are because KJ Appa from Riverdale, which is legit such a trash show. Like I hate myself for watching it. I'm pretty sure he did that. And then he put up a picture, not a picture, of like an Instagram stories of him looking at all the texts he was getting. And he was like, look at this. For some reason, so many people sent him pictures of their dogs. Like so many. Or their aunt, like any pet they had. Like there was like an iguana, like a like like a whatever. I don't even know. I
Because
don't
I
know.
feel like animals are a good like bait. I hate that I'm saying that, but
Send
if you
him a picture of
don't,
Eclair.
I'm not sending him a picture of anything. I've paid my dues. Like I the last
Literally, like with the money. Like I have paid.
I have literally given him my credit card
You
information,
take
not
traveler's
literally.
checks because I will give it.
For a 2-minute convo. But I don't know. I need to think about it more. I like my answer is never final. in terms
Yeah,
of what I'm gonna do, but Tarini and I were talking about it, and I'm like, I don't.
I
What the
said
hell
go
am I
for it.
gonna say? What the hell am I gonna say? But I really jumped from like 0 to 100 because I
Yeah.
remember being like, no, 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 I'm not gonna do it. And then next thing you know, I was like, should I just ask him out?
Yeah. You're like, it's Nadine from Toronto. He's like, who? No, he'll definitely remember you. There's so many options. You could have been like, I'm Nadine from Toronto. You could have been like, we already spoke. You could have been like, do
I
you want
already paid you.
yeah, I've already paid you. Like, that's commitment.
No, it's
JK.
fine. We'll see. We'll
Anyways, this episode is not about Sabrina, which we truly could go on about 5 ever. This
Yep.
episode is about Ginny and Georgia.
Okay, what are your overall, let's jump into it. What are your overall thoughts? What would you give the rating? And what did you like and not like?
Okay. Okay. So the way I
That was a
actually
lot,
started
that was
watching,
a lot of questions.
I know there was a lot of questions. I'm just gonna just say what I was originally gonna say,
Okay, yeah.
which is I started watching this because actually Hanya, who was on our show last week, last week, just manifesting this, who was on her show last week, her and her sister started watching it, and then they told me and my mom to watch it, and so my mom started watching it. And then she was like, "Oh, I started watching it. You should check it out." And so then I started watching it. My overall, okay, I'll give you my first thoughts and then my overall thoughts.
Okay.
My first thoughts, I was like, this is like dumb. I literally was like, what? I literally was like, just stop. Like, this is annoying.
But how far were you into the show when you had this?
Like literally the first episode.
Okay, got it.
Like literally, I had seen the first episode where they like introduce the characters, and then they give flashbacks to the mom.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like this is lame. I was like, that's why I told you to watch it, because I was like, it's a precursor to you. Not a precursor, but it's like got elements of you. And then I was like, it's a stepping stone from this to you. But then the parts that I was like, where I was like, this is annoying, are also what made me like literally, as we were saying, hate watch it. So by the end of it, my thoughts were, they definitely did some things well. They tried to do everything, like any and every potential thing they could have tried to do, they tried to do. And then at the end of it, it was like kind of predictable and unsatisfactory.
Mm, I feel that. What would you give it out of 10?
Like 5.
Oh.
What would you give it?
Okay, so I gave it a 7,
Okay.
and I stand by that rating.
I okay, if we're talking about the show overall,
Yes.
I'm like, this is like wildly, like, I don't know. Okay, let's just start talking about the show.
Okay.
Do you want to go first? I feel like you have so many thoughts.
I do. I just had like a bottleneck situation. Like I had so many thoughts and nothing was coming out of my mouth. This is okay. I feel like the easiest way is for me to break it down in terms of like what I like and didn't like. What I liked about the show right away was the relationship between the mom and the daughter. I thought it was really fun, and I loved how she normalizes sex for her daughter, even though her daughter is like still quite young. But I think it's so important that she normalizes it for her because she grows up not being ashamed of her sexuality. So that was one. The second thing I really liked about the show was how I did find it was diverse. I don't know if you felt the same
Yeah.
way, but I felt it was diverse and not in the way where it felt tokenized, which I think can be kind of rare, especially now. Like when we were briefly talking about Riverdale, but I feel like Riverdale is tokenized.
Totally. Oh,
Um,
totally.
and especially these like teen shows, they're all tokenized. So I did like the diversity of it. And I liked the third thing I liked was the dad.
The
And
dad.
I
Yes.
liked that they didn't paint him as like, and I know we talked about this, but they
Yeah.
didn't paint him as an absent father.
Yeah. Yeah. I did like that. So, okay, for anybody who has never even like, they're like, anybody who's like, what is Ginny and Georgia? It's basically a show about a mom and her daughter and her son. Her daughter's in high school. Her son is in like elementary school.
Mhm.
Um, and they move to this new town together. And it's about like how they're like escaping from the past and like the mom's like previous marriage. Um, and the not the drama, but like the story behind like her marriage and
Mhm.
her previous relationships. And then she comes to this town and she's like super different from all of the moms. She's a really young mom. And she's like very different because she's like super like, because she's such a young mom, she's very like
Progressive.
non-traditional, progressive. And then yeah. And then it's like how they like their lives in this town and like everything that ensues.
Yeah.
And that's like the highest level. So my thing with her mom is I feel like so we were talking about like the Netflix algorithm,
Mhm.
how it like churns out these shows. And I feel like we said this already, but this was one of those shows that was like just such a like clear like algorithm like put it together. It was like a clear win.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about, and they reference it in the show as well, that they are like a new age. If Gilmore Girls were filmed now and with like a mystery plot in there, like a murder mystery plot, it would be Ginny and Georgia.
Netflix loves its mystery dramas. I don't understand
Yeah,
like what it is, but they always want to throw in some sort of like true crime vibe.
they really do. Also, it's like, yeah, even like talk about Riverdale or
Yeah.
Sabrina, where they're
Yeah.
like, um, so I think like the charm behind it is like this mother-daughter relationship and like the struggles, which like has been done like forever and ever, where it's like the mom had the daughter really young, and so like she's like a super cool mom, but then the daughter is like, I just want a traditional like childhood with like a white picket fence and like blah blah blah. And the mom's like, what? Like, no, we're friends. And the daughter's like, I need a mom. And I kind of feel like that was the show. Like I
Yeah.
feel like had Georgia, the mom, been a mom versus a friend, literally the show could have like started and ended in one episode. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
I agree. I feel like although I loved the relationship between the mom and the daughter, I didn't love the mom's backstory or like her plot line
Yeah.
because it was getting built up more and more every episode, but it wasn't actually going anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like I don't know if they meant to do this or if I'm just like reading too much into it
Mhm.
and like trying to find a connection, but I feel like so the show talks about a million different things. It talks about like microaggressions because um Georgia, the mom, is white and Ginny is, well, in the show she's half black. So they're like she deals with all of these like microaggressions and like racist comments from like her peers. And like the show tries to do a lot of things in like addressing societal inequities, but one of the things I feel like maybe it tries to do, or if I'm reading too much into it, is tackle the cycle of abuse.
Mm.
So it was interesting to me. I don't know if I genuinely don't know if I'm looking too much into it or if they actually meant to do this, but the more that they tell you about Ginny, no, sorry, Georgia, I always get them confused. The more they tell you about Georgia, the mom's like past,
Mhm.
I think it's meant to be like, oh, and it explains why she's acting the way that she's acting.
Yeah.
And then you kind of understand even the way that she acts. Like, it's not that she's abusive towards her kids, but you could certainly construe it as like non-parenting or misparenting. And then maybe that was to shed light on how like your trauma and abuse that people have in their childhood
Mhm.
like impacts or influences their adulthood and how they are in their adulthood. Because like one of the things that was like just right off the bat is the mom like flees from her childhood like home very young because she's like abused and whatnot, and then she like never has a problem getting up and leaving, which when as an adult with her kids, which like you could be like, oh, is that because she did it when she was so young, that's the only way she knows how to like deal with like conflict resolution, is just she like gets up and goes. I don't know, maybe I'm like looking too much into it.
No, I see what you mean. I noticed that one of the things they also really normalize in the show is this idea of going to therapy and having a therapist and, like, taking care of your mental health, but out of all of the characters, Georgia is the only one that they've, like, made out to be very hesitant and almost like, rejects the idea of therapy.
Yeah,
So, I do see where you're coming from in terms of this,
yeah,
like, perpetuating the cycle of abuse, but the other part of me, which I feel like you're thinking too, is I don't think they thought that deep into the character.
yeah, I don't know if they did.
But, like, that's the thing, like, you were just saying that they tried to do so much, and you do feel like they did so much, and I think it's because they gave every single character a plot line.
Yeah, like literally every single character
Every even
ever.
even the restaurant owner had a
Yeah.
freaking plot line. For, like, what for?
Fun fact, he's from Toronto. He was on Narcos, another show I've told you to watch that you will not watch. And one time I went on this date with this oh my God, I went on a date with the guy from
The
that time
music
that,
video guy?
yes, exactly, the music video guy. And he took me to this like jazz bar in Kensington Market. It was like legit so random. But this guy was working at the bar. Yeah, so this guy, his name's Raymond Black or something like that, and he was working at the bar, and I was like, "Hey, I know him. He was in Narcos." Anyways, we left.
What?
But isn't that like so random? And he was
That
in
is
Narcos,
wild.
and he's from Toronto. And actually, one of the girls who is in the show as one of the best friends, she's from Burlington. So random.
It's very random. The show was actually filmed, like, I was gonna say across Ontario, but I think it was within Toronto and a few small towns.
I had no idea. I mean, I'm not surprised, but I had no idea.
Yeah. I'm
Anyways,
laughing because 'cause I'm like, "You should have auditioned. We should have auditioned together collectively."
sign me up. Give me a character arc. Like,
I will take anything at this point because
I
you're
know.
just giving them away for free, so
I know.
whatever
I
you
would
want.
literally whatever. What like I would be a bus girl at this restaurant. I would be a friend at the school. I'm still look like I'm in high school. One, I'm literally wearing my high school student government sweater. Like I was made for this role. Anyways, that literally could be a whole other episode. No, but you're right. They literally gave every single character their own like storyline. And it's weird how they all like came together.
Mm,
But um I think what was really interesting is they have so many moments in the show where they have characters like kind of like throw like racist comments or like make
mm,
like have moments where people in Ginny's school or like have like microaggressions against her or say like very racist things, but never did they it's never brought up, which I thought was interesting, that anybody questioned that Georgia was Ginny's mom because Georgia is white and Ginny
mhm.
is black. Like it was weird to me that they were like they thought of so many different like ways to like talk about microaggression, whether it's like her hair, whether it's like the words that she uses, whether it's like the people that they read in class, but never I mean, I just think it would have been a more real
Natural.
portrayal. Yeah, accurate portrayal of that.
That makes sense. I never
Yeah,
thought
but they
about it
never
that way.
asked that. Sorry?
I never thought about it that way, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. Um, one of the things that they do in the show a lot is they really like talk about the high school experience like the most, like the most ever. And I kind of feel, I always feel like this in shows that are written by not teenagers about teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
It's like really different than what high school is actually like. Did you feel like that?
I did. I'm like trying to remember specific scenes that I was thinking about as I was watching, and I was like, this isn't really high school. And the one that sticks out in my mind is like when they're all in the bathroom checking their collarbones. I don't know what that was, but they were
I
like
don't
checking
remember that.
something in the mirror, and this senior walks in and they all just freeze. And that was never a thing in high school.
Yeah.
This like hierarchy of people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like if you're a senior, it's like, oh my
Oh my
God.
god, roll out the red carpet, like, everybody step to the side, don't look, like, they might look, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that is, I think, is what stuck out to me the most in terms of
Yeah.
being far off of our experience.
Yes. That and also like there's the few
Slumber
scenes where
party.
the what, sorry?
I was gonna say the, like, slumber party at school.
Okay, yeah. First of all, the slumber party at school, I was like, what is that? But I've seen so many shows do that. I'm like, is this an American thing where they sleep at the school? Like, I don't know what this is. Like, what is the obsession with sleeping at school?
Listen, I did not wanna like, if you knew our school, you would not wanna sleep at
No,
our
no,
school.
you definitely don't. Like, the floor of that cafeteria is where it would be.
Grimy,
No.
grimy. Anyway, sorry, go on, what were you saying?
No, I was gonna say there's like those, first of all, the high school parties. Like, yes, people get drunk at high school parties, people like get high, whatever. Um, but but there was like when they're just hanging out and like everyone's like getting super high. I'm like, who does? I'm like, nobody does this where they're hanging out in a basement and everyone's just getting super high. Or maybe it was just us who didn't do it.
I feel like it was just us that didn't do it.
But like, did you do it in your house like so casually, like with your 17 friends over, just all like hitting a bong? Is that even what you do? I don't know.
Maybe maybe it should I was gonna say maybe it should be our next guest, someone from high school who can
Who can tell
we're
us? Who can tell us?
we're editing that up. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Swaggy.
I have no idea.
Um, I have a feeling that that yes, that is like what happened. You and I were just we were out of it. We were too busy hanging out with each other.
Literally.
Um, but I also wonder if it would have if it's more like a casual setting in the show because they make such a big deal out of it now being legal.
Oh, maybe. You're right.
So that's probably why they're so like laissez-faire and they're like, oh, whatevs.
That's true. Um, that's true, I guess. I think another big thing that they try to tackle is like the anxiety and like the onset of like mental health when you're like a teen.
Hmm.
Um, which I thought like some parts they like touched on that, and then some parts was so off. Like the part where her neighbor, his name's Max, right? Is it Max?
Her name's Max. His name's
Oh,
Marcus.
Marcus. Okay, Marcus. When Marcus is her neighbor and there's like this like semi like love triangle between her and Marcus and this other guy, and it's like she's literally there, it's like day 2 and he climbs in to her window and then they have sex and then he leaves. I was like,
That
this
was wild.
literally, I was like, this would never happen ever in like and ever. And like I remember we talked about this when we watched Never Have I Ever, because I feel like it normalizes, for lack of a better word, like, or not even normalizes, but trivializes and normalizes like what sex is in high school. Like there's certainly, you like have sex in high school, many people have it earlier or later or whatever, but um I just personally feel like it's never that casual. Like in Never Have I Ever, she goes up to that guy and she's like, hey, want to have sex? And he's like, okay.
Okay.
And then she's like, Cool. What? And then this one, he literally like comes in from her window at like 10 a.m. I mean, p.m., 10 p.m. And he's like, not even like want to have sex. He just like starts making out with her. And then it's assumed that they have sex.
You know what? For a show that tries to be very in with the times, they actually don't touch a lot on consent.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that is such a good point because I feel like they really had an opportunity there. I mean, they kind of do because they talk about how Georgia was like sexually assaulted when she was a child.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they don't really talk about consent after. And like there's the time where Ginny sends a picture of herself like
Yes, to
like yeah, like wearing a bra to what's his name, Hunter?
Hunter.
And he like doesn't answer. Was like
That's really awesome.
I was like that's really awkward.
I feel like
But
okay.
also consent, like an opportunity to have talked about consent.
Yes, 100%. I think to your point overall, like when we talk about the high school experience, there are definitely some things that like missed the mark. Um, and I completely agree. Like, first of all, the first it happens in the first episode where they have sex. I
Yeah.
didn't even know if they did or not.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like you're like it's like assumed. It's like did they or didn't they? Like what's happening?
Yeah, and you would think that if you would think that if you're being brought up by a mom that is like so liberal and normalizes sex and has these conversations with you, one of the things she would say is take it easy. Like it's
Yeah.
not like hi, nice to meet you. Okay, let's go. Like,
Yeah.
you know
And
what I
I
mean?
feel exactly. And I feel like if you have a mom that normalizes sex and like everything that comes with that, like not just like literally like sexual intercourse, but like they talk about a bunch of other things, you know what I mean? Like, and I feel like if you have a parent that's like so open to talking about it and like so normalizing it, like would you would you would think about sex differently, I feel like. If
Yeah.
because I feel like, in Never Have I Ever, they have this trope of like, oh, this family and they're super strict and they're like, no boys allowed. Like, what is that? They don't exist. And so then you kind of are like, okay, like maybe that's why the main character whose name I forgot is like weird about it. And she's like, I have to have sex right now. And it's like so weird.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, so then it would be the opposite for this, where their mom is like super sex positive and she's like, be safe. Like, you are dating somebody seriously. Let's talk about contraception. Like,
Mhm.
let's talk about whatever, like sexual health. That you would be like, oh, okay, so like, what are the steps I can take to like, quote, do this right, whatever that means, which
Yeah.
also then kind of goes back to my point of like, I think I'm just drawing too deep here, but it's like is like since she was like sexually assaulted as a child and like potentially the first time she ever had sex she became pregnant, maybe I don't know, like maybe that's what like maybe that's like this the not the cycle but like how the abuse or trauma gets like passed down. I don't know.
If I was in this, first of all, I always anytime I watch a show, I just think I wish I was in the writer's room for
I
this.
know. I
Especially
know.
with Riverdale. You know that meme
Oh my god.
of the guy? He's like by the board and he's very frantic. That's how I feel the Riverdale writing.
With Riverdale, if I were in the writer's room, I would accidentally pour my water bottle, my liter water bottle, all over everybody's notes because I'd be like, they're trash. Be like, this, we can't do this anymore, guys, please.
I think they just go and they like every person says a sentence and they eventually build the script from there.
Yeah,
Like
like, those
everyone give an
games.
idea.
Yeah, like, those games where every person goes around and says one word to add to the sentence. So it's like, I'll say like it, and then the next person is like sees, and then the next person is like ghosts, and then like it just like it's like everyone tries to make it as random
That's
as possible.
yeah,
That's how they thought of the entire storyline, script, plot, like everything for Riverdale.
100%. I feel like these shows, okay, Riverdale aside, because fuck knows why it keeps getting
Yeah, I
renewed
don't know
for
what's happening with that
into
show.
its like 12th season. I will never understand. But I feel like when we talk about the idea of like Netflix's formula for success, they're like, we have 10 episodes and we need to max out every single episode with every single detail and plotline. Let's go.
Ever.
And they just try to pack it in. And so you as a viewer, you're watching it and you're like, oh my God, like I need to know what ends up happening with all these different characters. So I need to watch it from A to Z to know what happens.
Absolutely.
It's the same thing with Emily in Paris. Emily in Paris was garbage. It was
Emily
hot
Paris
trash.
was like, there are no words for the kind of trash it was. Like, a raccoon wouldn't go through that trash can,
No.
is what Emily in Paris was.
And it was actually it was offensive to
Yeah.
French culture. It was in that one episode, not to digress from Ginny and Georgia, but in that one episode where she's working on some sort of like a pill for women's health or something, and
Yeah.
she
Oh, yeah, I know what you're gonna say.
vagina in French, and it ends up being a masculine word, and she like storms into her boss's office and she's like, your language is weird to me.
Yeah, she's like, your
What?
language is sexist. Like, first of all, calm the fuck down. You live in America. Like, we
Back
really cannot find anywhere more sexist than that. So, step one.
yeah.
No, that whole show, I was like, it won awards. Everyone was like, Emily in Paris. I was like,
No, that
this
was
was
wild
actually trash.
to me. No.
That show was so bad.
It was bad, but it it went into that algorithm that we were talking about Netflix, and it was an instant success. And I think it really does have to do with like I think of like a suitcase and just packing more things and then having someone like sit on the suitcase so you can just like zip it up.
That's
And
every
that's the
suitcase I've
show.
ever packed. No, it's true. It's true. Well, you said this, Emily in Paris. So, Ginny and Georgia is supposed to be like Gilmore Girls,
Yeah.
and Emily in Paris is a take on Sex in the City,
Yeah.
which is really interesting because I feel like I totally see the comparison in both. I totally see it. And then I like wonder what everyone's obsession with those two very specific things. It's like life in your 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is like flipping obsessed with life in their 20s. Like every show is like, your 20s, like, oh my God, like I'm living them. And it's really not that great. Like, I don't understand. It is me right now, and I'm wearing my sweater from high school in my parents' home. So what about it is so exciting? I don't know.
I feel this. I feel this because when we were on the phone talking about what 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 I should text Gavin Leatherwood, I was like, yeah, this is a show we should pitch to Netflix. Like we jumped from
Yeah.
talking about how you and I think we may be depressed to how do we ask out celebrities through their community number while we are in our childhood homes.
That's what I mean. Like, this is the true 20s. Like every
roaring 20s.
yeah, literally. Like I roared when I cried, and now I'm like crying myself to sleep. Like the roaring 20s. But no, actually, though, I'm like, I just don't understand when people are like 20s, best years of your life. Like, get that shit. I'm like, what shit? Like literal shit that I pick up after my dog, like when I take my dog on a walk, because that's the shit I'm picking up. The end. I really want to pitch this. Like, add anybody anywhere near with any connections to Netflix, HBO Max, Hulu, Treehouse, like whoever, wherever.
Yep. Treehouse? The kids show?
The kids show. Whoever, wherever. Listen, I'm not discriminating. I just want you to know that this is a potential idea that I would like to pitch to you about the true 20s, the truth of the roaring 20s.
The
We
problem?
really digressed.
We really did, especially since Jenny is in high school.
Yeah.
So We're like, why is everyone talking about the 20s? But this girl has yet to actually.
Like, I'm not.
Like,
Like, I'm
I'm just a kid.
16.
I just turned 16. I just had sex. Like, the 20s suck, though.
She's like,
Stop
oh,
talking about it. I don't want to know. No, it's rough. It's rough. It's all, you know what? It's all life. It's
it's all
all
life. It's all life.
all life. I just think they should have brought more of the hot dad.
Okay, yeah. I also, okay, so let's talk about the dad because I feel
Okay.
like it's really, okay. First things first is right off the bat. That is what first things first means, but that's fine. First things first, right off the bat, there's like always the portrayal of like the black dad, like the missing in action dad, like kind of deadbeat, like isn't involved, doesn't have like a career, doesn't know what he's doing, blah blah blah. And from the very beginning, that's like not at all his character arc. He's the one who's like, do you really want to like join this biker gang? Which also was like so many question marks. I was like, where did this biker gang come from? Just ready to adopt this like orphaned girl, but whatever.
I straight up was like, is this going to be a Riverdale crossover again?
Okay, I literally too, I was like, is this gonna be like the South Side Serpents?
She's in Georgia. I was like, this is for sure going to be some serpent shit. Like, I am not exit. Like,
I'm actually dead.
drop the plot line about your 20s and gangs, please.
Yeah, like end that, please. Anyways, yeah. So I literally was like, what is that? But then he's the one who's like, are you really gonna like join this biker gang? And then after that, when she is pregnant, they go and stay with his family, and his family is like very successful, like very well to do, like have very high expectations of their son, who is like on his way to achieving them. He's like going to go to law school, he's going to be a lawyer, he's like taking like a gap year to like do photography and stuff. And then even when he comes back in the show as a full-fledged adult, it's like it's known that like he's still very much in contact with Ginny. Like he doesn't just like high and dry abandon her. And you know, they're like always like texting, and he's like writing a book now, and he's like very well to do, like he's successful, so right off the bat they've like not fallen into that trope of like the black father figure in stories or in media. And so like great, fabulous, like loved that. Loved that character arc. But he was really quick. Like he came towards the end, and he like wants to make things work with Georgia, but then it's like, no,
She was stressing me out.
she was stressing me out too.
I was gonna make a joke about your dating life, and
It also stresses me out. My dating life, Ginny and Georgia's dating life, collectively and separately.
It's just such a juggle.
Such a juggle. I know. Dating lives in your 20s, I'm telling you, make a show about it.
I was really stressed. Like, why does she have to juggle? She was juggling the mayor, and then the hot dad came back, and then she was like, no, like we mustn't hook up. I'm like, you're gonna hook up. Like,
yeah,
just
shut up, just hook up.
Just do it. It's fine. Figure it out later. And then there was the prospect of the restaurant dude who you met at a jazz bar. Like, all of these men, I'm here for it, but it like, I felt like it complicated her story in a way that it didn't need to.
Yeah, and also I feel like, you know, okay, so in this show, the way that the show starts, it's like you understand that she has like married someone who's very rich, and then he passes away, he dies, and so all of his like money and whatnot, like everything, money, property, blah 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 blah, blah, assets, all go to her. And so I feel like she's portrayed as someone who's like super resourceful, super fast, like thinks on her feet really quickly, like is like a go-getter, like kind of like figure it out as you go, like fake it till you make it. Should I give any more? Should I give any more of these like metaphors? You get the point. Like you get the point. Anyways, but
I
then
didn't
she
even
like
realize
has
until sorry, I didn't even realize until you were like deep into it that you were like
I was like, why am I giving so many? Because I couldn't think of any more. I was like, they get it. They get the point. You've said enough. But even so, despite all of those many metaphors I just said, she still has to like anchor herself to a guy. And I'm like, you would think that now that she like you could argue in the past it was like, oh, because she needed money, blah, blah, blah. But like it's like there's two things. So you could either argue she did that in the past because she needed money, but now she has the inheritance from her like ex-husband who died. And so like now she's like, I'm good. Like, listen, I'm just gonna focus on myself. Or you could be like, since she didn't have like that stability growing up, and she's like, that's what she's used to, kind of like they allude, the two kids allude to the fact that like every time they go to a new place it's for a different guy.
Mhm.
So maybe that's like what she knows. So she goes back to it. But I was like, that was another opportunity for them to have just been like, no, like cut that cycle. Like she is finally in a place where she's like getting her ducks in a row. Like she's got
Yeah.
her money. She's like clearing the things of the past, like whatever.
I felt like this show was one of those things where it really just the main issue could have been resolved if they had a conversation, like if her and her daughter had a conversation.
Yeah.
Because so her husband dies, who would have been her kid's stepfather. So it's like neither of her kids' actual fathers.
Yeah.
Um and she actually doesn't get the inheritance. So that's another part of
Yeah.
her
At the
character
beginning.
arc.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the stepfather, like, I don't know why I'm like mapping this out like it's some like family tree, but the stepfather's ex-wife or her husband's ex-wife is like very vindictive and doesn't want to she wants to make sure she doesn't get the money.
Yeah.
Um, but also the stepfather was abusive. So there is
Yeah.
an underlying theme of abuse, but they keep it very cloudy
Yeah.
because they're trying to portray it as a mystery, but it just comes off as like miscommunication.
Mm-hmm. Mm, it comes off as miscommunication. And, like there's the part where, and this isn't ruining the show, where Ginny finds like underneath the floorboard, her mom has like hidden all of these different things. And it's like a
Mhm.
gun, it's like whatever else, like remnants of her past. And I feel like had she just had that conversation, I mean, again, you could say like, well, she came from this like very messed up family and like she didn't, and it's like alluded that her like mom like was addicted to drugs, so like whatever. But um if she had just had this conversation, because the rest of the show, it's like Georgia's super vocal with Ginny and they talk about everything and blah blah blah. So
Yeah.
had she just been like, one of the lines they say is like, when you like know some things about a person, like there's no going back. But when you, I mean, she didn't have to tell her those things or even those details. She could have just very much been like, my past was very different. Like, and then maybe Ginny would have even understood why she acted the way that she did. Because I feel like that was the point of having that be her past, is it gives you context to realize why Georgia acts the way she does.
100%. And if like one of the things they talk about is setting women up for success. I'm dead that this is also a theme that they've like thrown in
I
there, women
know. I know.
empowerment. But it's setting women up for success. And it's if you're trying to normalize, the relationship you have with your daughter and these various stigmas, abuse should be a part of that. Like
Yeah, you're right.
she should tell her, I had an abusive childhood. I'm not ready to talk to you about it just yet. Maybe when you're older, I'll go into more detail, but just so you know, this is what I had to go through, and this is how it impacts me today.
Yeah, and I think you're so right. Like a show that where they portray this mom as being able to talk about everything from like sex to school to drugs to alcohol to going out to like relationships, like any and to contraception, to reproductive health, like to any and everything,
Yep.
even to theft, like that, like part where randomly Ginny like steals something
Mm-hmm.
from that store. Like literally they're able to talk to they as in Ginny is able to talk to Georgia about any of that stuff. It's weird that that would be the one thing that Georgia wouldn't even like allude to. And you're right, like they want to break down a lot of these like stigmas or like stereotypes around different things, but I thought it was interesting because they didn't fully do so when it came to self-harm. And then
Mm-hmm.
if Georgia is this person who's like talking about everything, like bringing down these stereotypes, then I feel like she would have had the, I don't know what the word is, but like she would have talked about her abuse and been like, well, I came from a family like this. Like I was like this. Like I had to go through this. And so I don't want you guys to go through that or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Yeah, 100%. Especially too, since so much, when we think about like women abuse, so much of it comes through sexual abuse.
Yeah. And so much of it comes from like a lot of abuse in general comes from like your family members or like the people that
Yeah.
are closest to you. So I feel like there was definitely a missed opportunity there to like explore, not even explore that further, but like kind of blow it up in a productive way.
I almost feel like abuse should have just been the central theme,
Mm,
and they should have taken however many episodes to unpack it. Like I would have rather they chipped away at it than to have it there but not addressed.
yeah. I mean, maybe they'll do it in season 2.
Which it hasn't been
Announced yet. Yeah.
announced yet, but it's like almost guaranteed to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
What So if we had to sum up our final thoughts on the show and our final rating, if our ratings changed, what would it be? And what would the rating be?
Okay. So for me, my final thoughts were if you're deciding between watching and not watching it, it's a very easy show to have on in the background while you're just doing whatever. And you can like pop in and out and you'll still know what's going on. So if you are somebody who like likes to watch TV like me, which is like you're really non-committal in your TV watching, but you will finish the whole thing because you just have it on in the background, absolutely go for it. It's like an easy watch. I mean, Nadine watched it in literally one night. Like, you could watch it in one night. Like it's easy. My final rating remains a 5 out of 10 because I think that while they did justice to some things, they literally just tried to do so much.
Mhm.
It's like it's like you're it's like you're good at everything but you're good at everything but you're not great at anything, you know?
Mhm.
And I feel like that was the show. It was good at a lot of stuff and touched upon a million things, but it didn't do justice to any one thing. What about you?
I think it's very entertaining. I think to your point, like it's something you
Yeah.
can have on in the background. Don't try and like don't go deep into
Yeah.
the show because it for sure is not written to be like I don't think it's written for that purpose.
And there's so many plot holes. Like,
Yeah.
will I just add like there are so many like things that you're like literally no, like that's
Yeah.
impossible, but okay.
100%. I'm gonna stick to 7 out of 10 just because of the hot dad. I really think he was the star of the show for me.
I'm dead.